All right, we're back again.
Yeah, over the last week I've had a few topics that I've been bouncing around that I've been anxious. Actually, just in case anybody cares, the way I generally come up with ideas, and I think it's probably the similar for you, is as the week goes on between episodes, I keep a Google document, and I call it Clark's Scratchpad, and I use it for writing down little things that come up that either bother me or observations I make as I go through my week. So that's my little hack as far as how I come up with topics.
For sure. And I think anything that's happening during the week, if there's a major news event or if there's something that's crazy, that made you laugh or some crazy event, that will definitely take the forefront. So anyway, that's so what do you got going on? You said you had some things you wanted to share, some ideas, some thoughts.
I think the biggest thing that I wanted to share with people is, and I've brought this up before with my wife and even just in general, but I'm starting to, or I really want to wage war on the word.
Oh, those are strong words. What are you waging war on?
I'm waging war on the response you get when you ask how someone's doing and they say, busy, man, super busy, so busy.
God, I hate that. Yes, I understand. Continue.
And this isn't a new phenomenon. I mean, people have been using this.
No, it's been going on forever.
People have been using the I'm busy response for as long as I can remember. Certainly when I entered the work life, it became more prevalent. In fact, at school, of course, there would be exam time, but I don't remember necessarily having fellow students or friends of mine say, when you asked them how they were doing, I don't remember a prevalence of I'm so busy being a response.
I hate it. I hate that response. You and I have talked about this. I know that's the title of our podcast, but seriously, you and I have had a lot of conversations about a lot of things, and it's why we called it what we do, because we have talked about this. That whole busy thing, everybody is busy. We're all busy. Everybody has stuff going on.
But do you remember it in school? Did people say, is this something that started when we went to start our careers, or were you hearing this back in school days, or can you remember?
No, I can't remember it in school. I don't know when it became a prevalent thing. I'm going to say it was probably at some point in maybe my mid to late 20s. So once you're in the workforce and you're out there working for a living, that's when it becomes something that's going on. And especially it happens when you've got kids, you've got a job, you got to run things here and there, and it becomes a badge of honor. It becomes this thing like, oh, I'm so busy. And then it's almost like a competition, like who's busier, right?
Yes.
And that bothers me. I don't like that at all.
I remember I was putting together, a couple of friends of ours were putting together a high school reunion. This was about 6 years ago. And at that time, I think I had one kid. He had one, maybe two kids. And we were looking for people to volunteer to help us out with putting this reunion together. We were holding it at a venue somewhere in Pickering. And we put sort of an organizing committee together, and I think 6 or 7 people were on this organizing committee, of which my friend and I and one other person were kind of leading the charge. And we asked a couple of people who were also on the committee, do you mind maybe taking this aspect of the organization or that aspect of the organization? And we got the response, yeah, I wish I could, but I'm just so swamped right now, I can't take this on. And I remember him saying, okay, this person is single, has no kids, and we're both, we've got families. We're already putting a lot of work into this. And he had a tough time, as I did at the time, fathoming how somebody without kids could be that busy. And I know that may sound unfair, but I think definitely the busy thing, I think you really do get busier when you have kids. Absolutely. But it just, for us, we didn't really get the fact that, yeah. I mean, we're getting a little bit off. I'm getting us a little off topic here.
No, you're not getting off topic at all. I honestly, I think that like I said, it becomes a badge of honor. And busyness changes. Like when you think you're busy when you're 25. You think you're busy when you're 22, 23, 24. And you've got to get up and you've got to work for a living. And then, you go back to your single bachelor pad, or a lot of people go back to their basement apartment or just their parents' house or whatever it is. And then they get up and they go to work, and then they come home and they do whatever they got to do. They go out with their friends, and you don't realize how much free time you actually have until you have a child, and then you have another child. I mean, you've got 2, I've got 4. Like when you have a family and you have you're running around, you're shuttling kids to baseball or hockey or football or whatever sport, you're busy. That's the definition of busy, right? It bothers me, especially when single people say that they're busy, because you know what? You're not. Unless you are saving the world, you're not busy. And I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure this is going to offend somebody out there that's single, or they're going to be, oh, I'm so busy, you don't understand. Okay, come live my life for a while. You want to know busy? I'm frickin' busy. I am very busy. But here's the thing. Every time somebody that says that to me, like, oh, I'm so busy. How you doing? Oh, so busy. Got tons of stuff going on. I almost feel like saying, oh, that's terrible. You should tell me what's going on. List it. Just enlighten me, right? Because I can almost guarantee you, you're not as busy as you think you are. And it comes down to prioritization. I really believe that, right?
So this is the thing, though, is that I think there's 2 different things going on here. If you're not necessarily, I mean, do you use the word "I'm busy" as a go-to for when people ask how you're doing?
Okay, so that's the thing I think that a lot of people do. I think that's become the, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm good. When really, we're not good every day. Like, we're not. None of us are. Imagine if you said, if someone said to you, hey, how you doing? And you said, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm not that good. I got all this stuff going on. Like you just start this like long list of crappy things that have happened in your life. Nobody would listen. Everybody would be like, don't even ask that guy how he is, because he's got all kinds of crap going on. Nobody wants to hear it.
But I think people do that anyway when you ask them how are they, and they say, oh man, I'm so swamped, and they go on about these things you were just describing. I think that is actually more of the default response. Maybe they don't get into all the gory details, but the word "I'm so busy," it's the symbol for all those things that are going on. What I wanted to ask you though was, because there are people who will listen to this who are single and will say, how dare you say I'm not busy?
Sorry, single people. I apologize.
And I don't think that it's incorrect for you to... You are busy. I am busy. We have kids. I know I'm busier. The single friends I have, I was just as busy as they were when I was single. And again, I'm not trying to make this sound like a competition, because I think that's actually what one of the root evils of this is the competition aspect of trying to be busier than everybody else, or at least be as busy as everybody else. But when I was single, before I had a wife or a girlfriend even, and no kids, I felt I was extremely busy, and I was extremely busy. Not debating that. And it's our choice to have kids, so we decide to make, most of the time it's our choice to have kids. We decided to become much busier than what we were when we were single, or we're just redeploying.
I don't.
We're redeploying our busyness.
Yes.
Hold on. So if you're capable of, let's say, 100 units of time to get to for your day, let's just use a round figure, 100 units. Before you had kids, you occupied, let's say, 99 of those 100 units where you were busy doing stuff. Well, everybody has the same amount of time as they had then as they do now. Time doesn't change. It's a static thing. We can't fight time. Everybody has the same amount of time available. When you have kids, you just allocate that time differently.
Right. I guess that was what I was trying to say, is that what you fill your time with changes. So things that you used to be able to do, or the things that you filled your time with when you were single or only had one child, you now fill it with whatever, and you drop stuff. You have to. There's no way you can fit everything in. So going out every night with your friends, which was the before busy, now becomes the I have to be with my family busy. And
right.
And then if you throw in something like what you and I do when we, you still travel, I used to travel a lot for business. When you throw that in, when you come back, you can't just land at the airport and go, okay, I'm going out with my friends, or I'm doing this, or your lifestyle changes drastically. You have to be with your family. You have to show up at your son's baseball game in a suit because you didn't have enough time to go home and change, and you're the only nerd there in a suit because everybody else had to go. You fill your time with. I say this because this is exactly what happened the other day. I had to go to an end of year school party, and I have to take the train from downtown. And I showed up, and I had to show up in a suit, and I was the only guy there in a suit. Everybody had the time to go back and change. Does that make me more?
Does that bother you? Does that?
It did. I think
that's kind of cool in a way. I think that's kind of cool. Like you got to the event. You're in a suit.
I did. Yeah.
Now maybe I'm starting to support the thing that I hate most about this, which is people saw you in a suit, so they must have thought, "Hey, there's a busy guy.
Yes,
he had to come straight from
busy. Yeah.
the office." Or
that's exactly what I was going to say. I maybe look busier than everybody else, but anyway, whatever. I try not to say it. We both made the conscious decision, I would say maybe about 5 years ago. Does that seem right? Because we talked about this, and we said this was something that bothered us about 5 years ago. Maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
we've
both
definitely had...
Yeah, we both made the conscious
We've had conversations
decision.
about it.
Yeah. So
anyway. I mean, not to belabor the thought too much, but there were a couple points I really wanted to make, and that is that I believe that when you tell someone you're busy, that it suggests perhaps that the person that you're talking to isn't important enough to fit into your
I agree.
schedule.
Yeah, or that you're busier than they are.
Right, and you do get kind of into. We talked about this in the conversation we had with Teresa about the hand washing contest, where
yeah, that was so good.
When you go to wash your hands for the after you've used the bathroom, after you've gone to the toilet, that you got the person who also went, and you're both at the sink together, and there's this competition that goes on between who's going to wash their hands the longest, because if you stop first, they're going to look at you and wonder,
I'm not
as clean.
I'm cleaner than you are because I washed my hands longer. Yeah.
So you do get into that kind of parrying of like a little sword fight of like, well, here's why I'm busier. Well, here's what I'm doing. And so it just creates this like competition. But I mean, if you said to someone when they asked you, how are you? I wonder, like, doesn't saying I'm doing great, I'm managing life really well, maybe you're not saying those exact words, doesn't that actually present a certain amount of confidence, rather than I'm busy might suggest you're harried and you're disorganized? And how does I'm really doing well, like, let's imagine this for a second. If you ask me how I'm doing,
yep,
and I say I'm doing really well, and you'll say maybe, well, isn't it busy at this time of the year, or aren't you busy at work? It's like, yes. Just imagine the conversation of the difference between a calm control. Imagine, like, we talk about David Allen and GTD. His idea of GTD is mind like water. You're like the karate guy,
right,
who's ready for anything. The title of one of his books is Ready for Anything, where you're in like a karate-like stance.
Yep.
And you take a blow from this side or an attacker from one side, then you parry over to the other side. You deflect a fist or a kick.
Yep.
And to me, that's the ultimate sign of success and confidence, is when you can have somebody who is actually taking life like it's just... like you're in total control. I respect that much more than I'm busy and I'm insane and I don't know what my head's Yeah. I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
So I actually thought about this a lot, and one of the things that I like and I use often is I use two things often. If I am busy, genuinely busy. Sorry, let me say what I usually say. What I usually say is if someone asks me how I am, I will tell people, so far so good. Because in reality, I'm so far so good. Ask me in an hour. Maybe it'll be completely different. I have no idea. My day might blow up. But if you're asking me right now, so far so good. And I kind of smile, and most of the people that I work with or interact with on a daily basis, they will like, good job, awesome, and then they carry on. I think it carries with it a positive. It's like a positive thing to say, and it also leaves open room for change, right? But if I am having a particularly hectic day, I will say to people, hey, if people will say, hey, how you doing? I'll say, I'm trying to keep all the plates spinning. So I mean that just conjures up that image of like that guy at the circus that's got all those sticks, and there's a plate on each of the sticks, and he's spinning them all, and then the ones over here on the left are like almost ready to stop spinning, so you got to run over there and like spin those plates, and then go over here. It just, that to me, because honestly, some of our days are like that, right?
But are you just saying the same thing, though, but just making a cute analogy for it? Like, are you still just saying the thing that bothers us, I'm busy, except now you're creating an analogy of a cute picture of somebody spinning plates at the circus?
Yeah, probably, but I don't use it all the time. So I think it makes it better. And I don't know. I think people do overuse the busy analogy. So what's next?
Childhood fears. Yeah, it came to me the other day when I was listening to, or I had read an email from the kids' school. Many people probably know that the Olympics will be held in Tokyo in 2020. And as part of the kids' program at school, they had some visitors. We received an email just saying that the kids would be seeing some members of the Paralympic athletes that would be participating in the Tokyo Olympics. And Paralympics, as most know, I think, is there's the Olympics and then there's the Paralympics, which run simultaneously,
like right after,
shortly after. But it's part of the overall event of the Olympics,
yes, it's held in the same month of the Olympics. I think there's 2.5 weeks of the non-para Olympic, I guess, able-bodied Olympics, and then the Paralympics are immediately after.
Right.
Yeah.
The note had come out that the kids were going to get an opportunity to meet some of the Paralympic athletes that were going to come visit the school. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. But then there was this little part of me that imagined they were going to be seeing people with not always disabilities that are obvious to seeing them. Many people have disabilities that aren't visually apparent. But it brought me back to childhood, and I imagine thinking of, let's say, I'm sure there would be athletes participating in the games who would have, say, an arm that had been amputated, or they were born without a limb, or something different than my kids, who fortunately are able-bodied and have everything's there that may not be if you were one of the Paralympic athletes. And I imagined, this is great because it's a good learning opportunity for the kids, because they will see people who have disabilities, yet they're performing in a high competition environment, elite level environment. Gosh.
And uber elite, they could kill us, basically.
And it made me think of when I was a kid that, in particular, people with artificial limbs or missing limbs scared me a lot and made me feel very uncomfortable.
That fascinated me. Where did that come from? Did you have a bad experience?
Well, there was a couple of experiences I had that could be linked. I mean, in general, when you're a child and you see somebody that's different than you, I think most will be processing that. Most kids will have to process, oh, that person doesn't have an arm or a leg. Instead, they have a stump, or they may have a prosthetic. And so it's almost just in as a child. For me anyway, I processed that, and it scared me. I was scared of it, and I remember we had some people that lived behind us who had it was the grandparents that lived behind us of a family that came to visit, and there would be a kid there that was like 7 or 6 or whatever he was, and he would come over and visit me, and he had I forget what it was, but he definitely had something different about him that was going on, like his development was slower, and we were friends, and it was nice. But I remember I was at his house or down in behind his backyard, and I remember he had a screen door that was you could see into the house from the backyard. And
I know where this is going. Go.
And inside the house, so his his grandfather, I believe I had already ascertained at this point that he had a missing leg, or he only had one leg. And I remember peering through this window or the screen door, and it was one of these sort of back split houses where it was 5 stairs and it led you to the second floor.
Yep.
And what I could see up the stairs and straight ahead was, I guess it was the bedroom of the grandfather, and I saw like a prosthetic leg hanging on the wall.
And how old were you?
I would have been under 10, so probably 8 or maybe 7 or 8.
And like very little exposure to that up until that point. So here's this leg, this prosthetic leg hanging on the wall. Grandfather that never comes outside. You know, he's whatever, sitting there watching TV, and you can't see everything. Yeah, I can see how that would be a bit of a disturbing thing for somebody under the age of 10 who'd never had any experience with that. I actually had early exposure to that. My father's uncle, who was a farmer, so I guess he would have been my great uncle. He had missing fingers from a farming accident. So, I mean, from a very early age, maybe 3, 4, I don't know how old I was. You know, I saw that, and it was explained to me that he had lost it in a farming accident. I think he was doing something on the combine, and his finger got chopped off, or fingers got chopped off, and to me, it wasn't really all that weird. It was a bit strange, but I mean, he could function, and he was a fantastic uncle, so nothing wrong there. But you know, I don't think I ever saw anybody with a prosthetic limb until I was maybe in my early teens. I'm just trying to think. Like, I don't really think I knew anybody or came across anybody. And when I did, I think I found it more fascinating than scary. To me, it was sort of like a, wow, that's incredible. And I got to tell you, I saw this video the other day of this guy that was running on a treadmill, and he had those 2 sort of like blades that, you know, will fit on your legs, and you can run, right? And this guy was amazing. He was running 25 or 26 miles per hour, which is insanely fast if you think about it.
Yeah.
And he was running on these blades, and I mean, it's fantastic. I look at that and I think to myself, imagine rewinding the clock, not even 100 years, 50, 30 years. That technology did not exist 30 years ago. Maybe it did 30, but definitely not 50 years ago. Anybody that is in need of a prosthetic limb or is in any way not 100% abled with limbs, they're probably living at the best time that they could probably live right now. With the way technology,
I think there's a lot of things.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of things like that where to be in a situation today versus 25 years, 30 years ago is so much easier. I mean, if you're gay, imagine how much more difficult it was.
Oh yeah, 100%.
5, 10, 20, 50, 100 years ago. And thankfully now diversity is so much more prevalent, whether it's gender diversity or something, sexual orientation. the ability, like I've had friends who 15 years ago were not able to be out at the workplace,
right.
and would have to make up stories about what they were, who this partner was or this companion was that they were with at an event.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was, sometimes they would have to just flat out lie and say, well, this is my cousin or my friend, when they couldn't be open and honest and just say, well, this is my partner, my life partner or whatever. So, but here's just on another comment on did your parents educate, or how good were they at educating you around people with differences? Do you remember having conversations with them like, we're going to see Uncle Bill, he's missing fingers, it's not like you, he won't look like you, and I don't want you to stare at him in a weird way? Like, did you get any sort of...
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, sure, a little bit. I mean, you have to children are, I mean, they're innocent in their curiosity, but they also have no, couth, right? So if there's something strange or different that they're not used to, and I don't mean it in a way that, I don't say strange or different in a bad way. I mean it in a way that they're just not used to. So, my parents would say, look, we're going to visit so-and-so, and there's this that might stand out. Please don't make a big deal of it. Don't stare. Don't, ask too many strange questions. And I think that's okay, because you don't want to make the other person feel uncomfortable. But I've also heard from the other side that people will say, you know what? Just ask me the question. Don't be stupid about it. Don't hide it. Don't be weird. Just say, hey.
I've heard that too. How
did you lose your finger? How did you lose your leg? How did you... why do you only have one arm? Just ask the question and don't be an idiot. Because it is a story, and in all probability, it's probably a pretty fascinating story. Maybe it's bad, maybe it's unfortunate, but it's probably a pretty interesting story.
And aren't we just perpetuating some of the fears?
Yes,
and
100%.
Around, we're perpetuating these fears around these disabilities, that by not making it a free and open space to talk about it, that conversations don't get had, that could get had, that would have made things much better overall for everybody.
Do you think this conversation sounds stupid, by the way? Do you think somebody that had a missing limb would look to this conversation and go, what are these idiots talking about?
My gut reaction or instinct is no. I think my gut, and I can't speak for other people because I'm not in that situation, but my gut tells me they would actually find this refreshing to hear that. And it depends on the person. And I shouldn't put words into people's mouths or thoughts into people's heads, but I believe that most people would think, no, this is refreshing to hear this talked about in this way, because they go through on a daily basis, depending on what the issue is. It could be a facial disfigurement, it could be a missing limb, that they notice maybe they see parents with their children kind of pulling their kids away just because they don't want the kids to see or to ask questions because it could be uncomfortable. I have heard that people in those situations actually do invite the questions and want to try to break down some of the myths about these things. Instead of it being this scary guy over in the corner with a missing leg, it's easier or better for the parents to say, well, we don't know what happened there, and it is something that can happen, and it's part of life. They may have been born that way. It could have been an accident. But my biggest thing is I don't ever want my kids to feel they can't ask questions.
Well, there's also a way to ask questions, right? I mean, most people have a radar that can tell whether someone is sincere or being stupid, right?
But as kids don't always have the right way to ask questions, depending on what your definition of that is. So I think for me, the thing is you have to allow the kids to not, have to ask the question the right way. If they just simply want to ask a question, part of the education is helping them understand the right way to ask a question. So if they say something that sounds really terrible if they had said it to that individual, then that's a coaching and learning experience for the kids as well.
Kids have an awesome way of processing things too. That's how they process. They ask questions. And so, what they might say, well, how come you're missing an eye? Well, I lost it in an unfortunate accident when something happened and, in school, and Billy poked me in the eye with his pencil and whatever. And then the kid might just be like, oh, okay. Hey, you want to, and then they just move on, right? So they can process very quickly, which makes me wonder why your parents didn't encourage some kind of, or somebody didn't encourage you to sort of talk about, that grandpa's missing leg or something like that.
But that's the thing. Maybe in all fairness to my parents, they didn't have the opportunity because I just didn't want to ask about it. And maybe that was because I felt a certain way that I couldn't. I don't know. That maybe that I was raised that didn't give me the feeling I could ask a question like that. But I would almost be willing to bet that if my parents heard this story, they would say, well, why didn't you come and ask us about it? We would have been completely open to discussing it. I think some of it is, as kids process things in our own way, and that particular situation, I didn't feel comfortable asking questions. Maybe I didn't want to relive the experience by asking the question. Maybe I didn't want to know the answer to the questions. And I was a kid who internalized a lot and was sensitive, and
me too.
Always had thoughts swirling around that perhaps I was more concerned with the answers I was going to get. That, like, one, we'll move on in a sec, but I'll tell you this: Terry Fox, the runner, famous Canadian runner, at least well known to Canadians and probably many people.
I think almost worldwide now, yeah.
In our generation, this was in the early 80s, Terry Fox was someone that put running or disability in the forefront. Not only did he have cancer, but he also had a missing leg due to his cancer. And the fact that he was doing a cross-Canada run in order to support awareness around cancer and to raise money, it also brought that into the forefront as well. Like, a person doing that, I think, at my age, it was a real impact. And I remember being so scared, though, at the time, that what if I had I got cancer and I had to get my leg taken off, or, that was something I was always very scared of.
Interesting.
Was that, what if that happened to me? And so it was something that really I was very scared about.
See, I wasn't scared about that, but I can tell you this. I remember getting on board. Remember they did this thing where he would run through certain towns, and it would be on the news, and they'd be like, oh, Terry Fox is going to run through Coburg at like 1 p.m. He should be there about 1 p.m. on Saturday. And so people would gather, and they'd be cheering him on and stuff like that. And I remember listening to that or hearing it, seeing it on the news every night. And then I remember being absolutely gutted, Clark, when he had to end his run in Thunder Bay. And I remember, and then, shortly thereafter, I can't remember how much time it was between when he had stopped running and when he actually died. But I remember feeling genuinely sad. And I was still a kid. I think I was under the age of, would I have been under 11? I don't know. I don't even remember.
I think this was 1982 or 83, maybe 84.
So I was under the age. If it was 82, I would have been 11. So, the fact that he had...
Actually, it was 1980. I just checked.
It was 1980. I was 9 years old. Yeah.
1980, with one leg amputated due to cancer, he embarked on an east to west coast Canada run to raise money. And it says here he died in June of 1981, so it would have been sometime around 1980, 81 that you would have...
I was 10.
The run ended.
I was 10 years old. So, I was gutted. And I think there were so many things about Terry Fox that were communicated both outwardly and, almost under the surface. And it was the whole idea that here's a guy with a missing leg, and he was running a marathon each day. I don't know about you, but I couldn't run a marathon now with both my legs, and never, like, not just once, but he did this every single day for however many days. And then here's a guy that was really, a little bit shy, but very endearing, had this incredibly, like, a drive that I think most people would look at and say, gosh, I wish I had that kind of a drive in me. He was so driven. He was so motivated. And he has risen like millions and millions and millions of dollars, for cancer research. So, it's just an incredible person. So there you go. Great story about somebody who had missing limbs. So you don't have to be scared, Clark, about people who have missing limbs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Swimming pool bans men from using hair dryers on their nether regions.
That's a thing?
Haven't you ever seen anybody in the bath, in like the change room at a health club?
No.
Have you ever seen men do that? They take
No.
the hair dryer and they start drying themselves off down around the groin area and their chest. And
No.
you haven't seen that?
Never seen
I've
that.
I've seen it.
Yeah? No, I've never seen that. I've watched many a guy towel off, not with the, I've been in a gym. I've watched guys towel off. I have never seen somebody like take the hair dryer and spin it so that they can dry their bits, their jewels.
This pool is in Iceland. They said that as a result of a bizarre new habit, that people were using communal hair dryers in these change rooms on their nether regions. And so they said the problem became so bad that they were forced to create a poster. The poster shows an elderly man hair drying his testicles with a large red X covering the image.
How is that a bad
Which
thing,
I will,
though?
I will certainly share with the. Let's see if that comes through.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Oh, so it's like a plugged-in hair dryer. It's not one of those ones that are on the wall. Because I was, in my head, I was thinking about that. You know that white one with the silver thing that spins? And, you can dry your hands, or you can dry your... Because if you're in a pool area, they have the ones that are a bit higher than sort of the one that would be in the bathroom. And the one that's a bit higher, you could sort of... you have to crouch down a little bit, but you would, like, put your head under it, and you could, like, tousle your hair and dry it, right? What you're showing a picture of is a guy with, like, a hair dryer that you would plug in,
So this is in, I guess, the Icelandic language, that the title of the poster is, "This is not a ball sack dryer."
That's awesome.
Don't dry your ball sack or your butt with the communal hair dryer in the swimming pool or the gym. That's apparently what the translation is.
And what language is it written in?
Icelandic, I guess, is the name of what you call Iceland language is Icelandic.
I think it is. I think it might.
And
be.
I know, I have thought, by the way, that we have to put together an episode where we have all of my mispronunciations, misinformed statements. I want to grab all those sound bites.
Oh, yeah. I just said risen when I was talking about Terry Fox, and I almost thought, like, that's going to sound like he rose from the dead, but I think I should have said raised money instead of risen money. But, yeah,
right.
You're right. Absolutely. Yeah. Bloopers. Okay, hold on. Wait. So have you ever done that at home? Have you ever taken your wife's hairdryer and like, dried your ball sack or your butt?
Yes.
That's good.
Well, actually, there's the article talks about the reasons why people gave for doing it, and it said here, and I don't think I necessarily had this in mind when I was doing it, but they wrote, a couple people wrote in about this to the newspaper. It said, "I don't go to the gym, but at home I blow dry my balls with my fan. I know I do it because if I put the goods away wet, it can sometimes lead to a sour smell."
How much are you sweating in one day that your balls smell sour?
No, but you're packing it away wet from the shower.
But why are you? Yeah, but how about you just dry them off with a towel? Like, I'm sorry, when I dry,
I don't think you're fully drying. It's like drying your hair. You're on your head with a towel. Is it getting fully dry? No.
No, but I mean, okay. Unless you're in a super rush, there's usually some lag time between when you dry off and you walk over to the, your dresser and you kind of search for your underwear and socks, and by the time you put clothes on, I think everything's pretty close to being dry. I don't know.
I think
that's me.
Yeah. It's obviously a problem in this swimming pool.
It's Iceland.
This was Iceland, but I suspect I would love to hear feedback on this. Have you seen people in dressing rooms do this, and does it bother you?
It would bother me. I think I would have a problem with it. If I was watching someone do that, I'd be like, dude, stop. Go do that at home.
I think it would depend also how much they were doing it. Like if it was like in this picture, they show this guy, he's propped one leg up on the counter, and he's literally like blowing the dryer on his groin. I think if it was that overt,
while staring at you at the same time.
Exactly, which is what the poster is showing, which is probably the idea here is the eye contact with you and this guy.
It should be no eye contact whatsoever while doing that. You should be staring at the wall, and you should no eye contact at all, and it should be quick, very quick. And just a little like a zzz, and then like a zzz, and then you're done. Get out, and do not be looking at me while you're doing that.